Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Using Technology to Gain an Advantage in Metal Recycling. This webinar is sponsored by AMCS. It should run approximately 45 minutes and it will be recorded. So we ask all attendees just to remain on mute during the presentation. And feel free to submit questions. We will reach out via email after the conclusion of the webinar to get back to you. So before we delve in, I just want to do some quick introductions and a high-level look at AMCS as an organization. So my name is Chris Bundock. I'm on the business development team here, and I will be moderating today's webinar. I will also be joined by Mark Valdez de Pena, a senior sales engineer at AMCS, who has over 20 years of experience working on implementations of software in the scrap metal recycling industry. And we are also very happy to be joined by Martin van der Linden from HKS Metals. As a customer of ours, he has worked directly with our technology on a daily basis, and he also comes to the table with 15 years of experience in the scrap metal recycling industry. So lots of experience for you. So now just a quick summary of some of the things that you can learn from today's webinar. Number one is how technology can help you face today's challenges in the scrap metal market. Second, how to increase productivity, efficiency, and ensure compliance within your organization. Third, how to manage metal recycling enterprises in a competitive global market. Fourth is leveraging innovative technology to improve your current processes and techniques. And finally, we hope that you guys can learn from some industry experts and get some practical insight from a leading scrap metal recycling company. Now I just want to give you guys a bit of background on the organization. So AMCS was founded in 2003. We have over 500 employees across 20 offices. We service over 2,450 customers and have a presence in 22 countries. And then it's very important that we mention that in early 2019, AMCS acquired RISI, our metal recycling solution, which has helped AMCS secure itself as a global leader in technology solutions for the recycling industry. Now I'm going to turn over the presentation to Mark Valdez de Pena to kick things off.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, Mark, I'm just going to make you the presenter right now. All right, Mark, you should be all set.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, again, my name is Mark Valdez de Pena. I've been in scrap metal, specifically computer solutions, for a little over 20 years. Came out of what was formerly known as SAI, Systems Alternatives, which was acquired by AMCS a little over a year and a half ago. You may have seen this recent publication in Recycling Today, right? Once again, scrap metal prices, as they do, have fluctuated. This time they're dropping, and I think precipitously. Keeping up with that, those ever-changing markets is a challenge in the scrap metal business, specifically because you're dealing with ferrous materials and non-ferrous. And in the non-ferrous world, you've got coppers, aluminum, stainlesses, high-temp alloys. The prices don't move in concert. Ferrous may be going up, copper may be going down, or vice versa. So keeping up with that ever-changing landscape in the ferrous world, typically monthly. In the non-ferrous world, up several times a week, you may have to make these adjustments, and keeping track with pricing and inventory costing so that you can have sales with expected margins. That's a challenge. So what AMCS offers, get this out of the way here, is end-to-end integration so that you've got complete visibility of the supply chain. And the system provides the management of prices, purchase contracts, the management of logistics, whether it's third-party logistics or your internal trucking, right through the scale applications to the receipt of material, the conversion of these raw materials you receive to finished goods, processing the outbound sales contracts and sales, which could be domestic, they could be export, you could be selling to perhaps even another broker. So there's a lot of complexity to the landscape that you're working in, and having an end-to-end solution so that everything you touch, from that setting up that purchase price to executing that sale and invoicing for that, tied together so that you've got a single source of truth. That's really what's required to be able to effectively and efficiently operate your business. One of the challenges is in this process flow, from setting up purchases and purchase agreements to arranging logistics to intaking the material to sorting, grading, and processing material all the way through, there's a time lag involved. And to have visibility, a snapshot at any point in time, that's invaluable, right? So again, to be able to react to market conditions so that you make sure that the hundreds, if not thousands, of suppliers that you're sourcing material from, and the logistics involved in getting that material from the generation point into your facility, to be able to react quickly to that, so that ultimately when you do process and sell that commodity, you've got expected margins. There are no surprises. And that end-to-end integration, right, across that entire supply chain is what's required to be able to effectively do that. So these are some of the things I want to talk about, some of the challenges in instituting a system like that. The AMCS solution allows you to streamline these operations because, again, it integrates every aspect of the business, from procurement through production to the sale and even finance. So it's an ERP system, no doubt. It's purpose built, right? And this is the part that's the challenge. It's purpose built for what I call the inverted business world of scrap. It's unlike any other industry in the fact that it's kind of an upside down model for an average manufacturer. An average manufacturer buys from a few sources, issues purchase orders, receives material from a few sources, and then sells out to a variety of consumers. The world of scrap metal is quite different from that. Our retail business is buying from numerous sources, be it peddlers, walk-up traffic, tradespeople, even commercial and industrial accounts. So to be able to streamline those operations, right, is imperative to reduce your costs, increase productivity, really drive that profitability across the entire organization. So what we see are, significant benefits in deploying a standard business processes. Standardization and harmonization of these business processes across independent facilities, because you may cover a wide geography. So standardizing and harmonizing these processes across your facilities, across your different lines of business, even in some cases different countries, right? If you're crossing boundaries, that's what delivers efficiency, is that standardization. And that's what allows you, that standardization allows you to have visibility, insights, and make improvements in your operation, because now you're doing apples to apples comparisons and not having to deal with a variety of different landscapes across your organization. And the digitalization of that, right, allows that information to move through the system automatically, not only within your organization, but also the digitalization of these processes, right? Your purchase transactions and your sales and production. The digitalization of that allows you to expose it in a very controlled fashion out to your customers, and also to your operators that may be out in the world, your mobile workforce, right? Your buyers, the inspectors out in your yards, your drivers out picking up material in the field. So what we're trying to do is get away from paper, trying to get away from communication via email, untold numbers of Excel spreadsheets, certainly manual keying of data, wherever possible, eliminate that, because with every one of those operations, right, in these disconnected systems, there is a risk involved. So eliminating that risk is going to help you protect your revenue, and you'll see significant improvements in things like performance and bottom line enhancement of your P&L. Another important aspect of your business is this is an asset-heavy industry. You've got huge investments in vehicles, if not vehicles, third-party carriers, in containers and roll-offs and hoppers that you stage around. Maximizing the utilization of those goes straight to the bottom line. We've seen companies with significantly improve the use of roll-offs through barcoding them and tracking the deployment of those so that you don't lose them and you know where they are, how long they've been there, and make sure that they get the optimal use out of those. You're not leaving containers out, spotting them at facilities that really are not benefiting your organization. Fleet optimization is also important, right? To be able to have automated planning and scheduling of trucks based off of not just a dispatcher's maybe excellent judgment, but with the aid of algorithms and forecasting and other dimensions that are going to optimize the utilization of your fleet. That's going to help you cut down on fuel costs, travel time, and get more with less. And here, this is the part that I find most interesting when it comes to the world of scrap metal is visibility. And this is this real challenge in this industry. Excuse me. Visibility of your stock, your inventory is critical in order for you to make accurate, timely decisions, again, to be able to react to market conditions. The HKS Metal solution records stock in real time based off of your scale input, right? Not only your scales, both truck and platform scales, but also the yard application that's making grading decisions and weight adjustments in real time so that you've got immediate visibility to that. Including and augmenting that, your scales is also an entire barcoding system, which allows you to track, right, the intake of material and also the sorting and grading and ultimate disposition of that material. Obviously, that's geared towards your non-ferrous inventories, but again, really invaluable when you're dealing with commodities that are ranging, from 50 cents to $5 to $15 a pound. That type of tracking and visibility is paramount. So you'll have a full view of your stock, inventory stocks, right? Not only the material that you have on site, you'll also have visibility and tracking into material perhaps that you've stored off-site or you have with a process provider that may be converting material to you. And lastly, and this is oftentimes a challenge, you'll have visibility into material perhaps that you are housing or processing on behalf of a third party that's not on your books, but you need to track it as well. All those things come into play and aid in that process. So one thing that's has become increasingly complex and certainly is not going away is compliance. Certainly here in the States, we deal a lot with, and it's a really complex landscape here because there are no national, as far as scrap purchasing, national regulations with regard to purchasing, but what you're dealing with are regional and local and very diverse requirements with regard to identity and tracking that. And the challenge with identity is, right, you've got these really varied requirements with regard to identity capturing, and on the flip side of that is the privacy regulations to be able to protect all those identities that you capture as well. Really complex. and to have a system that you can tailor, again, by state, by county, by municipality, and even some cases by location, and down to the commodities, right? So the regulations on these, the regulatory requirements are going to be different for automobile purchases, for non-ferrous purchases, and so on, and then really gets complicated out in California. To be able to adhere to those seamlessly is imperative. So with regard to quality, so right, we talked about inventory. Obviously the quality of the material that you're intaking and you're generating is going to directly affect the margins because of what you're capable of selling that to your consumers for. Scrap metal is a highly subjective commodity, right? So to be able to make grading decisions, and here's the challenge, to be able to make grading decisions so that you're buying the material at the proper grade and pricing it correctly, to be able to make those decisions that your scrap supplier, your scrap generator will not dispute is a challenge. And having the ability to have a mobile grading app so that you can not only grade the app as it's being unloaded, maybe split it into different commodities, but to be able to document digitally, take pictures of those so that, and immediately that are directly attached to the ticket. If your scrap providers know that you're putting that system into practice, it's really going to cut down, it's going to enable you to grade properly, apply weight adjustments properly, and do it in such a fashion that it's going to minimize the disputes and controversy that you've got with your scrap generators. It will instill confidence in the system that you have, that you are in fact you're grading and paying for the material that they are providing you in a reasonable, practical fashion. And so the last topic I want to talk about is again in the form of digitalization, is self-service for your suppliers, right? And we call them customers in this world. There's an increased expectation in everything you do. I mean, I'm old enough to remember that I used to have to contact a travel agent to be able to book a flight. Well, goodness knows that is certainly not the case anymore. And that holds true with banking and shopping, and now with scrap metal. There is an expectation that as a scrap metal recycler, that you are going to provide your suppliers with the ability to log onto a web portal and look at the transactions, the shipments they have sent you. Look at the photos of the material as you have unloaded it to make sure that, again, you're giving appropriate grading and in some cases weight deductions, right? So the expectation is there to do that. When you issue a payment for them, to be able to go and click on the payment that was issued, the loads that are associated with it, again, the pictures, the downgrades, the weight adjustments. Now, what's fantastic about this is the fact that you providing that service to them also relieves you as a scrap company, because this is oftentimes the case. It relieves you of the need to have personnel on your staff to respond to these inquiries. Historically, especially for industrial or commercial accounts, there was a requirement for you to have to provide them with maybe weekly or monthly spreadsheets and document loads and supply them weight tickets and give them pictures. So this is really a case of a serious win-win here. No longer do you have to respond to those requests, right? Because so you don't need to have personnel spend their precious time doing that. They can do more important things, and your supplier looks so much favorably upon being able to do that themselves because they can do it at their leisure. So they don't have to wait for you to supply it. So it's been, that's a real benefit, again, for all parties involved. So these are the things, right, that an end-to-end scrap metal solution, and again, purpose-built for the industry, These are the things that in every case go straight to your bottom line because they're providing efficiencies, they're reducing risk, they're eliminating a redundant work, and they're providing some efficiencies, just like the one I mentioned ago with regard to the web portal, right? To allow your operators to do their job, do it better, and when they do it more efficiently, and they eliminate the leakage of your revenue because of paying too much for material or spending too much time handling these transactions, right? It makes your organization that much more efficient and profitable. So, Chris, I'm going to throw this back to you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, if you just want to make me the presenter, that'd be great.
There you go. Then thank you for your attention.
All right, guys. So before we get to our second speaker, we're just going to do a really quick poll question and see what your thoughts are on this. So, what is your biggest challenge, or what do you think your biggest challenge is going to be in 2020? Contamination, inventory, pricing, all of the above, or none of the above? We'll leave that up for 30 seconds or so. Let you guys think about it, answer it. And then we will reveal the results at the end of the webinar. All right, guys, so we're going to close out that poll, and we are going to now move on to Martin Vander Linden from HKS Metals. And like I mentioned earlier, he brings a lot of experience, and he's going to talk to you about his business and how they apply technology at HKS. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, Martin.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Let me wait for me to get the controls.
All right, you should be all set.
Yeah. All right. Hi, my name is Martin, and I'm here to tell you about how we use RACI and what I think the challenges for the future will be. Okay, first, let's tell you a little bit about me. I'm born in 1982. I've got a wife and daughter who's 7 years old. I live in Zuidland, and for you Americans, that's somewhere between Amsterdam and Paris. I've been working for HKS Metals since 2003, where I've started as a system administrator. And by the time, IT was not much more than fixing some PCs and buying the odd laptop, and grew on from that. As I said, I work for HKS, the metal company. We are a scrap metal recycling company based in the Netherlands and recently also in Belgium and the UK. We are 100% owned by TSR. They're doing the same as us, in most notably Germany, but also the Czech Republic and Poland and some other countries here in Europe. We are both owned by Remondis, with a turnover of 7 billion euros and 35,000 employees. Remondis is one of Europe's largest recycling and water companies. At HKS, we currently have 10 typical scrap yards, as well as one specialty electronics disassembly site and one sorting plant for optimal recycling of the residual materials. We have a turnover of around 500 million euro and we have 275 full-time employees. We're processing 1.6 million tons of ferrous, non-ferrous and electronic scrap. Our head office is located in Moerdijk, and that's somewhere between Rotterdam and Antwerp. We've got 2 deep sea terminals. One here on the picture is Amsterdam, and we've got the one in Moerdijk as well from the previous picture. We process residual material in our high-tech downstream sorting plant in Amersfoort, which has transformed completely in recent years. It was a typical scrapyard, but now it's a 24/7 sorting factory with a complete different processes in place. In 2 specialized facilities, we process electronic scrap for reuse as well as for recycling. So let's move on and talk about HKS and AMCS RACI and how it all began. Let's take a step back into the 90s when I was actually 12 years old. In the early 90s, before we had RACI, HKS, was then called Klöckner, used a proprietary system from the German head office. There was no printer in the Netherlands, so the OP list was sent by a DHL courier twice a week from Germany. And at month's end, my colleague Kees, who still works at HKS as our head of accounting, would drive all the way to Germany, a 250-kilometer drive, to pick up the inventory evaluation report. Then we only got to know the results after Kees came back from his road trip. In 1993, Klöckner Scrap merged with HKS Metals to form HKS, and then we decided to start working with RACI. We were the first Dutch customer, and the RACI owners did the user training by themselves here in Amsterdam. After some initial hiccups in the beginning, the first month was finally closed in April, and from that point forward, the system has evolved to what we have now. As a little side note, this was actually before Office 97. That's the one with that animated paperclip, and it was before Windows 95 was released. So that's how long we've been using RACI. So let's get back to the present. We use the following modules. We use RACI Business Management with the integrated weighbridge, invoicing, inventory control, valuation system, pricing and contracts management, archive, currencies, etc., etc. In short, this is a complete system for our daily operations. We use RACI Accounting. It has a direct interface from the RACI Business Management, and it also contains an integrated fixed asset management module. We use RACI Molco. We use it for the planning of transport with our own fleet, as well as for contracted carriers. And we've been able to get rid of a lot of those clustered Excel sheets you mentioned before, and lost containers as well before we were using a centralized planning tool. So we use RACI BI in a hybrid way, where RACI AMCS delivers a data warehouse and access to a shadow copy database, but we built our own reports and analysis on top of that. And together with RACI systems, we've developed the advanced tech systems in order to integrate the electronic dismantling process into RACI. Before we had this solution, we could only see the totals of materials coming in, the total of materials going out over a certain period of time, using Excel sheets, calculations, assumptions as well. But now we know for every kilogram of material, where it is in the process, as well as physically on the yard, where it came from, and if the process was profitable at all. Our inventory check for e-recycling is nowadays accurate within kilograms. And for those who do inventory checks for scrap, ferrous scrap, you know that's a big difference. There was one big change for our graders on the yard. From these guys, they are not used to working with technology when we implemented iGrading. But being able to directly grade the material and take photos with an app has sped up the process on the weighbridge significantly, as well as the communication with the customers if there were any possible deficiencies. So in December, if I remember correctly, AMCS acquired RACI Systems. And then I first came to know AMCS during a meeting in Düsseldorf in Germany. And I was quite happy to see that we have some common goals. For us, for example, we think digitalization is key as well, just in order to retain and improve customer satisfaction. Some people in this business say that scrap people, they can't even read, let alone log into a customer portal and find the information they need instead of calling us. I think this couldn't be farther away from the truth, because everyone has a smartphone nowadays, and if we provide the possibility to do what they want at that moment that they need the information in an easy to use fashion, then they will all do this, or at least most of them. And as in the previous presentation was said, that would save us a lot of work in the office. That's why we are working hard together with AMCS and RACI to implement these systems for digitalization and customer self-service. So at the moment, we're setting up the AMCS customer portal with the capability to book transports by the customers. We're in the process of reinventing the self-service weighbridge in order to service truck drivers after closing of the weighbridge for some particular processes. And we are integrating the digital Dutch freight guidance letter in order to further optimize the process on the weighbridge and automatically archive these documents without any human interaction. And we have some challenges ahead. We would like to further integrate our operational processes by using IoT technology, for example, to improve the production booking process. We want and we need to optimize our supply chain by working together and connecting with our partners. And we want to further improve our customer satisfaction by offering more self-service and after-sales services digitally and directly from RACI. Well, thanks for your attention, and I'll pass back to you, Chris. This was it.
Awesome. Thanks, Martin. It's really good stuff. And looks like we got a lot of stuff on the horizon with you guys. So, all right. So before we conclude the webinar, I just want to quickly kind of share the result from our poll. It actually looks like everyone selected that pricing was going to be their biggest issue in 2020, which I can imagine makes sense with the current market structure. And then we also want to mention that this webinar will be on demand. So if you have any questions or you're looking to access the content again, you can absolutely do it at our website, amcsgroup.com. And we just want to thank everyone for taking some time today to attend the webinar, and to have a good rest of your day. Thanks, guys.